the committee from here.
Oh,
And then-
right.
Yeah. I
Oh,
don't know if you were okay with me being chair again.
yeah, I nominate you
Okay,
for chair.
hold on, let me call the meeting to order and take roll call. Perfect. Thank you. Councilmember Swatman and Councilmember McClemens is here. Missing Councilmember Fullerton. So yeah, first item on for discussion is appointment of committee chair. So
Is she on Teams or did she actually like get into Blue Jeans?
she's not, and there's no way to check Blue Jeans. It's
Yeah, I
not,
didn't
we're
get it.
not using that anymore. Any longer. I sent out the link with Teams and the agenda has this as the link as well. So
Hey, okay, me too. So.
I nominate, yeah, council member Swatman for the chairman.
Yeah, the nomination.
any other nominations?
So, do I have to do it 3 times?
Do you accept the nomination?
Sure. We'll hang out again for a
You
couple of
did such a
years.
nice job last time.
Only because my committee members.
All right, so all in favor of appointing Councilmember Swatman for chair?
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
I,
Okay, thank you.
Gwen's gonna do finance, because that's, we've done that before with like Tom, when he was doing that fine, so
Wait, did you think it's
she wanted to do that, so I don't know if we have to officially say that or something, or. You want that?
I think it will probably maybe be discussed then again at council, because I think it was that the chair would serve, but I think,
We've always done,
I-
Tom was doing it.
Yeah,
for-
Tom.
yeah, Tom did, and Tom was the chair, exactly, so I don't think it necessarily has to be.
No, it doesn't, I think we wrote the.
I don't think it's in the code that way, so. Fine,
That's fine.
turn the meeting over to you.
Yay, alrighty, so thank you very much. We'll move down to the ordinance of the code maintenance, ordinance D 24-02 that we were discussing last time, and of course, it's lengthy, we ran out of time and stuff, and we've had some changes made. Thank you very much, okay.
Yeah, so the big discussion that we had last time was on the provisions related to the sign code and temporary permits
Mhm.
or temporary signs. And Councilmember Clymonds asked that we change the word destroy to dispose and then also provide a 2-week grace period. We have added that language as requested. I was just trying to pull up the page.
You know, and that also just, it's technical, but I think on your grid that you did with your changes that are at the bottom.
Oh, just,
It has the, you know, that, it doesn't have what you just said.
yeah, it has the old, I didn't update the grid, just the ordinance.
Yes. You know, catch that one when it goes forward. I should have brought my little mobile monitor. I can't look at that too. I got my little key.
did you get your little foldable one?
Yeah, I just got the little cheap one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like push it over there and see that page.
So yeah, on page 25 of the packet, it was item J, right above the section 16 heading. We said timber signs placed on public property or public right of way. We changed destroyed instead of disposed of by the city without notice. And then we said the city shall hold signs removed from public property or public right of way for a minimum of 2 weeks before disposing of the sign.
Yeah, I still want to talk to, the deputy mayor about his logic about the west side, from the west to the veterans to the west side of Fort Hamm. I kind of understand a little bit, but I really want to understand.
Well, I would move that we just strike it.
The other option is we could put it on, we can put it on as a, instead of a consent agenda. I wouldn't recommend, given how large it is, as a full council item. And then during once the motion's made, we can have that as a motion to strike, at least have that debate and allow, I guess, both sides to have that conversation and then.
Well, no, it's in committee now. I would just think we should just erase it.
I mean, I guess we were just trying,
This is my request from committee. Staff can suggest it to be put back in or somebody at the, but isn't that how a committee should work?
if it was, my only hesitation is it was directly requested that I put it in from the deputy mayor and
And you guys can note to him that, you know, the committee looked at it and decided that it wasn't.
Yeah,
appropriate.
see, I think it'd be okay okay with them, I'll let them know tonight.
Okay, but the committee pulled that out, so we're gonna delete.
Yeah.
2
and 3.
Well, I wouldn't delete 2. Cause 2
Oh, yeah,
is
not-
public owned improvements or
Yeah,
infrastructure. It would be 3.
Right.
The place in the 410 right of way between the western edge of Veteran Memorial Drive and the western city limits. We can delete number 3.
Yep.
And then number 4 becomes 3, and that's fine, and I'll note in the comment matrix that the committee, that was placed in the ordinance and the committee removed it.
Sounds reasonable. I just don't want to create a patchwork and then you kind of have a subversion to elected seated officials, making it harder for other people to campaign. So
I'm just,
but it's just a purely political thing. It's not a.
I'm just trying to respond to
Yeah, indeed.
what people ask me to put in the ordinance.
No, that's great. Yeah, you did perfect.
I haven't.
So the sewer language is, I don't know if we, did we have anything else on this site? Sign stuff?
Yes. Can I give you a little briefing on the sewer stuff?
Yeah, please.
So really, there's not a lot of a change when it comes to the sewer stuff.
Uh-huh.
So if I were to be able to pull up our municipal code right now, back in June of this year, the council amended the sewer provisions relating to allowing for some additional projects to use septic if they're far away from sewer,
Sure.
as a way of kind of reducing costs. And it applies to both fourplexes and 4-lot short plats. So we kind of both development options.
Right, so why, can I pause there for a second?
Yeah.
Why would we do that to a fourplex? You know, I could understand that to be an option for like a single family or maybe a duplex. But when we get to the fourplex level, can we say, yeah, no, you're gonna have to go to sewer?
Yeah,
Because,
I had the same comment.
and this is why. That's already in the code, and the council put that in the code as part of a grant that the council received to reduce the cost for middle housing. That was what the council approved back in June. What happened, unbeknownst to Ryan and I, is that the mandatory sewer connection language appears both in the water code and the sewer code. And what we did back in June to comply with our grant obligations was only amend the water code, creating this weird conflict, internal inconsistency with the code. So all we're doing is taking the language the council already approved, moving it to the sewer code and repealing that section from the water code, so that the water code talks about water and the sewer code talks about sewer. So if you were to pull up your municipal code right now and go to, I forget the section, there's a 1304. Yeah, there's a, and I can, if I can log on and share my screen something, but if you go to, go to 1304 and go to 040. That was all the stuff that the council approved in June of last year as part of a grant that we got to increase the supply of middle housing.
Mhm.
The decision was to allow up to fourplexes, and then to balance it, we allowed 4-lot short plats as well. So all we're doing is taking the existing provisions that we've already approved and just moving them into a new code section. So while it does look like new language, it's really not new language.
Just being put in a section where it
Yeah,
actually
but I
pertains.
still agree with Councilmember Swatton. And my comment was, can we just stick with duplex, and the fourplex is probably stretching it a bit.
My only concern is we put that in under a grant we just got. That was the specific task
Somebody
we,
wrote us a check.
Yeah, but the grant didn't say we had to enable it for fourplexes.
that's what we put down as our action that we would take under the grant.
Yeah, but I thought the action was more general. I thought you were very coy about putting down some general statements, like we were gonna make it easier for.
In the application, but when we gave them, this is our final deliverable, give us our last check, that's what we put in there.
What'd you put in there? You actually gave them the change?
Yeah, because you guys approved it, the council approved it in 1304-040. So that's what I was saying is this was the section that the council
Okay,
amended.
so that's what it was when you got your check? The council's changing it now. We have that project, right?
We do, but I think Ryan's trying to kind of, make sure that he doesn't upset the agencies too much. Cause I kind of agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I can see what he's saying. He doesn't want to like, burn.
I don't want to get.
That kind of burn, man. I mean,
It
the
depends.
city, they're upset that a city council is doing their job.
I would say if it was 2 years from now and we had like a legislative issue and we could bring back, hey, we've had all these problems. Yes, but to 6 months after we got the check to remove the provision that we said we were putting in. And we have to give this ordinance to the Department of Commerce as well. You could run into those issues. I'm not saying you won't, but you are running a risk.
How many times do we think the fourplexes are gonna get an exemption?
Yeah, that's a good question too, because, I think in reality, still, isn't it the Department of Health, the agency that has to grant those designs for the sewer system?
You can do up to,
Septics.
from my understanding, and talking with our engineers and my understanding to come up your health department, is you can still do up to a fourplex on a simple standard septic system. And that's why we picked that's why we picked what we picked, is because at 4 lots, you can do it all on single family homes. And with a fourplex, you can still use a typical septic system. You don't have to go to like a community sewer system, which we have to oversee.
A large on-site.
It's like a large site on-site septic. So that's why 4 was picked. We couldn't really come up with a reason to go between 2 and 4.
Well, do we have that many? I can't think of that many spaces in Bayou Lake where we're gonna put fourplex.
It would be mainly Cedar View.
Yep.
Where those types of units would be allowed, and we
Where
don't.
we typically, or we don't have.
We don't have
sewer
sewer
service.
service.
Cedar View's R3?
Cedar View C2 and C2,
Oh.
because of the density, you can get up. That would be the only areas that I would see it, or the R3 area behind Target.
And that's,
That's R3.
right, but that wouldn't be within 250 feet sewer.
Yeah, there's no sewer in that area. As you get further and further down from Target to 198,
Oh, going that way, yes.
you get, after about 2 lots, you're out of 250 feet where you could
Yeah.
tie into the main that goes through the sewer. So like one of the classic examples is the property that was all destroyed right there at 198th and South Prairie Road that we got cleaned up. It's miles from sewer. And so that would be an area you would see some sort of septic system for a fourplex.
Well,
So
that's not exactly right, because technically the sewer's on 410.
the grades don't work.
Right there.
Your regulation that we're kind of like, there's,
Yeah, I mean, you have to be.
your regulation doesn't say any grade is involved. It says 250 feet. Yeah, because the reason I say this is because we've been like around this thing a million times, unfortunately. And I thought we were in a position where unless the sewer, what do they call it, stub out, is available on the person's property, that they can't really practically be required to hook up when they're doing single family homes. Because even if if it's not like stubbed out, a person that's like I believe the way it's written currently right now, your septic system fails and there happens to be a sewer system in the road in front of your house. And the city's gonna say, well, you can't, get a new permit for a new septic or whatever. You can't repair that. You have to hook into the sewer system, right? The municipal sewer system.
Yeah, if it's,
So, but the problem is that sewer can be in any kind of configuration in the public road. It could be on their side of the property. It could be on the opposite side. It could be 5 feet deep. It could be 20 feet deep. It could have a manhole in it that you can't go in or you can't go in. It's extraordinarily expensive for the private individual to get to the public sewer inside of the road, right? It's easy. It's not like trivial. It's like tens of thousands of dollars. It can easily cost $20,000 to get the sewer just stubbed up before you even pay the fee.
and that was part of the reasons why we allowed up to fourplexes not to have to
Yeah, right. Yeah,
go out and trench miles,
Sure.
because
Yeah.
remember, we're also as part, and then we'll get into this conversation tonight. We have some obligations under the Growth Management Act, and this was part of our way of trying to meet those requirements under the Growth Management Act. And so it was a low risk type thing, right? It doesn't change where fourplexes can be built. And there was the concern when we initially brought it forward was that we were doing fourplexes, but we weren't allowing for short plats. So that's why we increased it to also allow for 4-lot short plats, right? So there's equity between people who are doing 4-lot short plats for single family homes and people building
a single family mansion.
well, or some people building a 4-lot, a single building, but having 4 residents. We try to keep some balance between those two.
But that's again, I didn't know for sure. The way the code reads now, we got that 200-foot thing back in there or around there. Because that just doesn't work. I understand and agree with what you guys are thinking, but it doesn't work in reality. You can't, the situation right? Am I wrong about how the code's written?
No, it's always, we didn't change the 200 feet. The 200 feet's always,
Before though.
it was-
We had somebody out here
it
that
was
we were
two-
actually working with. We were working with a couple of people. We worked with
250?
that Church Lake person out there, and I don't know, that was probably just one of those like, yeah, okay, we'll just ignore it kind of thing, maybe is the way it went. Because they were having, to hook into the sewer system and we got it.
I think there's always going to be those weird cases that we have to manage on a case by
Yeah, there
case
always is.
basis. Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
So
And I think the old code was 250 and it was dropped.
Yeah, it
to-
dropped 50 feet, but I'm not sure when that occurred.
probably something like, well,
Yeah.
something we were probably doing, right? But practically from a staff point of view or whatever, you can see what I'm saying, right? You can't expect somebody that has a sewer system that fails and the is in the street to hook up to it, basically. Unless it's stubbed out to their property.
I don't know if that's true because I don't know if if there's a sewer in front of your property line, if the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department under their regulations would allow you to have a septic system. Because I think,
I don't know, well, it'd be interesting to know what they say or how they
Because I
get
think-
around that, because, I don't know, it's kind of they would always prefer, everybody, we want people to be on municipal sewer. But the practicality of the homeowner doing that is just like I said, even if it's super straightforward, I bet you'd spend $10,000 making that sewer stuff up. And if somebody's building a new home, well, yeah, right, obviously. But if somebody has a system and it just failed, all they gotta do is.
and I think that's a different analysis. The way I'm reading this specific provision is when you are building A, B, C, D, or E. When you're either building a new single family home, are you building?
Well, yeah, and that's good. right?
That's how I'm reading B, because it says exception for residential development. In conjunction with the construction of an individual detached single family home, duplex, triplex, or fourplex.
So where are you at? Which?
I'm reading them from the code that we moved up.
H12.
Yeah.
The packet, item B.
So you have to read the 200 feet plus all of the supporting language, which says in conjunction with the construction of a single family home. So you'd have to meet both tests. You'd have to be 200 feet and in a way that it's available for you to connect. So if the sewer line is, because of grades higher than your house, there's not a connection available because of topography. And second, you would have to,
It doesn't say that in the code though, right?
well, no, it says available. It doesn't say just
I
located.
know, but you're being nice. But we've had some directors that aren't as nice.
I would say we're all bound to the, I would say we're all have to be bound to the writing of the paper.
And when we want to be, equal and consistent with our commercial or residential developers, when we make them hook up to systems, which I think is pretty straightforward usually.
Yeah, what I would
And
say,
when we want to make them, do gravity instead of sewer lift stations and stuff.
I would say,
I don't know.
I would say one, it would have to be it's over 200 feet. This just says when you're over 200 feet away from any property line.
So how about this? Is it possible to add a definition for sewer availability in our definitions and define sewer availability as being, some nuanced language that you have the ability to, does that screw everything up?
I'm just trying to figure out how we would write a definition.
I'm just trying to give you the flexibility of the practicality. Of
Yeah,
somebody saying, oh, this is gonna cost you $50,000 more. It's not gonna.
Well, and I think we all have to be guided by nexus and proportionality when we require things. And that's just something from our standpoint. Anytime we make extractions on development,
Oh, yeah.
they have to be proportional and
Right. But we, had this issue over here on Church Lake,
Yep.
with one individual that we spent like 15 months on trying to figure out, because they were hung up on having to hook up.
we could add a language. We could add a language in sewer connections mandatory that give the public services director latitude to determine if it's available based on best engineering practices.
If you can think of something, I'd appreciate it. I don't know,
We can bring something forward. I understand what you're saying. It's like,
because otherwise you guys get hung up.
Yes.
Because it's kind of a binary decision and you want to be able to have that ability to say, yeah, you're right. Even though the sewer's like 100 feet away, it's also 20 feet higher than your house.
yeah, I think we can add some language, Ryan. You could probably help me.
Yeah, let's talk more tomorrow, but we can just come up with some kind of a caveat like we've done in other areas where, public services director, or designee.
Yeah. Because if you have, because the problem is, if the sewer is 200 feet away, but it's also 200 feet over your head,
Right.
being way over dramatic.
Sure.
There's not a way to make a connection. So maybe if we could also add something where the public sanitary sewers are 200 feet from the closest property line or impractical connection due to topography or.
I can get pretty creative with connections, so, yeah.
I think we can add some language that creates that additional kind of safeguard. Because I don't disagree with the issue that if it's $3 million to connect to sewer, we're not going to make something.
So when I
I was
read
like,
that,
whoa, wait.
Single family home, 3
Single
million.
family home,
A multifamily? Okay.
a single family home.
under 5,000 square feet.
So I should caveat that, but we can come up with some language that kind of further expands on that concept.
So when I read this, you're saying B applies to paragraph A, that sewer connections mandatory, all new development must connect, right? Unless,
Unless one of the special provisions in this section are met, and
right.
development is
B
defined.
is for new and C is for existing. What you're saying?
Yes,
Because that's not particularly clear. It's, when you said it, the bells went off in my head, but until then, I was like, oh, I get it. B is for new development, C is for existing. And so,
what we can do, and it will make it look a little weird when I give it to you, but what we can do is we can take, instead of saying sewer connections mandatory A, we can just say all development must connect to sewer. Because for me, new development and existing single family homes are kind of weird. Or the C is just saying all properties must connect to public sewer system unless one of the special exceptions or provisions provided in this section below are met. And then make A, B, A, C, B, so they're all kind of, that's just an introductionary statement, and then these are all the exceptions.
But I think C1 is what we added to get to Dan's Church Lake example.
Yes.
Because C1 says when a public sewer main with a side sewer connection has been installed, then they must connect. So we're not asking the property owner to install the side sewer.
right.
We're saying it already has to be there, then they have to connect. So Dan's issue on Church Lake was, if I recall correctly, Dan, sewer line was in Church Lake. There was a manhole kind of like kitty corner at the property. But they were on septic, but the side sewer hadn't been put in. So I think we added C1 after we were talking about that a couple of years back.
And then C, and then the introduction paragraph to C protects people who got the exemption under A. if something happens in the future, because it says where a private wastewater disposal system predates the enactment of this section or has been permitted pursuant to subsection B, the private wastewater disposal system may be used as long as, and those are all the requirements.
So again, the side sewer has to be there before we have.
We should probably.
Anything you guys want to do with it, it's good.
So maybe, I mean, I think you're concerned about if it's not able to, it's 200 feet away, but the grades don't work or something like that. I think Brian and I can work up some buffer language that kind of.
Yeah, it's fine. It's always a weird throw thing to do. It's kind of like, and 1 in a million.
And then what we'll probably,
there.
now that I'm looking at
They
this,
usually run into,
and we've
that's
been-
why they flip to our desk, right?
and now that we're talking about this, I think we also in sub C should add pursuant to either subsection B or subsection E, which is the short plat. So if someone installed a short plat and did 4 single family homes, they only have to connect when they meet the standards in C. Trying to walk a
Yeah.
tightrope.
When you install a new sewer system and you're going through an area, I think we should really consider installing all the side sewers when we go through that.
Like typically we do, don't we, Ryan?
Up to the property line.
Yeah.
Sometimes. So.
I mean, we may not have in the past, but.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And everything, split them up and then.
That's a lot of extra work, right?
Not necessarily.
If you're going down the middle of the road, all of a sudden you're like making a
Well,
cut
we
in every
usually,
property.
we
You're
almost,
gonna have to do the halfling wet restoration anyway,
Mhm.
so you're gonna have the road dug up anyway.
Yeah.
it's a
You
very
can't say
unusual
it's on both
process
sides.
of installing sewer.
Mhm.
That's what we're redoing.
I'll say the area you're most likely to see some sort of big sewer project like that would have that level of impact is in Cedar View, but we also have water mains that we're trying to replace at the same time. And we would just be doing the road resurfacing, from my understanding, at the same time, and kind of just taking care of all of those projects simultaneously, so you're not.
Correct.
So that's a good one with all those millions that didn't appear that disappeared.
Still on the list of things we gotta do, but that would be the only time I think you see us doing lots of trenching and putting in sewer systems with side connections, because everything else pretty much is more maintenance type fixing of the system between manholes, unless I'm completely missing something.
So, I've kind of lost this a little bit. So you're gonna make a few updates and then bring this back and we're gonna look at it?
We could, or we could put it on, we could do that, or put it on a full council workshop.
Do you want to, can I suggest that we come back to committee with all that stuff? And the only reason I say that is so the council member Fulton would be available. And then since she's on this committee, that we can make sure that she gets it all solved here. And that way when it moves forward, we don't have some like big issue with a bunch of different things.
You're the legislative body. If you want me to bring it back to a second committee meeting,
If it's not that time.
there's not a clock. I mean, there's some things in here we want to get
Sure,
done.
exactly, yeah.
Like some things with some code enforcement and some other things that we'd like to get cleaned up so it makes our lives a little easier. But there isn't like a shot clock that we're
Sure.
under, so we can come back on the first CDC is February.
Okay.
Um,
Did the chief have any concerns with anything with this ordinance that we need to know about? Okay.
I'm just outside of it and I'm on sewage, so it doesn't really affect me personally, but,
I don't know if you're here for a particular issue.
no, I was kind of here to listen and you guys are doing sewage stuff. I'm like.
Super, he's like, I'm out.
Talking about sewage.
so my action items are, we will remove the language.
And make it a footnote of,
Well, we'll remove the language related to the signs on 410. We will add language in 13, 12, 130 that provides some additional flexibility related to engineering
Mhm.
issues, and who makes that call. And then we will also kind of restructure that so that it's clear that what's currently B through F are exemptions. I'll have to figure out the best way to do that. And then we'll bring that section back, also updating C to include both the provisions of A and C. So I'll try to clean it up and make it look a little user friendly.
So I had some concerns about some of the appeal language. I think, page 15.
Yes,
So that looked like new language,
B and C are new language.
B, C, D, and E.
Yes.
Yeah, and it seemed to me like I'm really concerned with all of our appeal processes, right? Because for a couple of reasons. I want to try to make sure that I usually get emails from constituents after everything is, once everything is done.
Yes.
And then they're mad, right? And then it's like, well, and then and lots of that time, it's like, I really wonder if I'm hearing from everybody that has a problem, what appeals, what has happened, what appeals, and people just go, I'm done. I'm done with Bonnie Lake. And they never contact us. And I want to know where people are having trouble, right? Because I want to understand what's going on in the code. I can't legislate unless I know what's going on, what people are doing. So it seems to me like I get less and less, feedback. So with appeals, the fact that appeal now doesn't go to any council person or elected official, but now goes to a trained legal expert, hearing examiner. I'm nervous about that because I don't understand where people are having run-ins with their government that they don't like, that we should legislate something different. So I need some mechanisms to kind of help me with that. So is there a way we do all this appeal stuff that the council is informed via some sort of report in a regular way, that we know these appeals occurred, this is the section and how it occurred, so we can look at it and go, because right now it's like there could be a whole bunch of things and appeals that happen. I never know about them.
So I think there's a couple different issues that I think get merged here together.
Mm-hmm.
We have had the hearing examiner doing appeals probably 20, 25 years. So it's not something new. We're just kind of cleaning up the process because it wasn't as, the average citizen couldn't pick up our municipal code and clearly read how that process worked. It was kind of still gray ether. So part of this is not changing the process as it is more providing transparency on how appeals work. These amendments here specifically are just dealing more with the structural issue of how appeal gets filed, because you have two sides of an appeal. And so we're just trying to make sure everybody understands how appeals get filed. So when staff is telling people how to appeal, they have code provision, and it's not what Ryan thinks this day or Brandy thinks or I think, that there's an agreed upon approach. So that's kind of what this is getting at.
Yeah, this looks more like a force field, right? It's like a citizen comes forward. I'm super sensitive to this, right? Citizen comes forward and goes, hey, you guys are making me do this, and I don't think it's what I should be doing. And you guys go, here, we'll file an appeal. And I come in and they go, oh, you didn't follow section D, wasn't quite done right, try again. I tried 3 times, I go, that's it, I'm done, right? And I go, my attorney, and I go, what can I do? And the attorney says, do you pay me a lot of money or you can move? And I go, okay, I'm gonna move, right?
So,
And
I think
this looks to me like this is a force field, as opposed to, if we put force fields like this in place, I'm looking for metrics and information to tell me when these things are happening, because The
Agreed.
citizens shouldn't feel like it's them against the government. They should feel I told you when I got elected the first time, I try to determine things based on, is it a service or a burden? This does not look like a service. This looks like a burden. Putting a burden on the citizen to get the exact right form of the appeal before you accept it.
We make the form for the citizen.
Okay,
We give the form to the citizen.
okay,
They still have to at least tell us why they're appealing,
sure.
right? That's what this is getting after. We get a lot of appeals that say, I appeal. We then burn lots of legal hours
Mm-hmm,
getting those appeals dismissed,
mm-hmm.
which is taxpayer resources to get appeals dismissed because we're having to bring in Jennifer when there isn't any grounds for appeal, right? Yes, I agree. Burden, resource, being helpful. We also have to kind of protect the other side of the city, which is we don't want to just spend city resources because someone's mad, not because there's a legitimate ground for appeal. So it's kind of that, how do you weigh it? I think what we can do, and I don't disagree with this, one of the things we've started doing, at least with Public Safety Committee, and this is really dealing with code enforcement, is we do a quarterly report to public safety. And I have no problem as part of that quarterly report identifying how many appeals we received, how many appeals were dismissed, how many appeals were, found to be where we were in the wrong, right? The hearing examiner found that we were in the wrong. We can provide you those metrics and what the appeals are about. Most of our appeals are, I don't like the regulation.
That's a great reason to appeal.
Except,
I don't like the government bullying me.
except it's things
I'm
like,
on their side.
I understand, but it's things,
Just
it's,
to be clear.
well, those are appeals we get from people who are squatting in houses, right?
Sure.
Like Mr. McBride's neighbors who were in here really upset with public safety was,
I have personal experience, right?
right, so it's not a lot of this is code enforcement. It's not the email that you got from earlier this year about a development. I think that's a little bit of a different issue than we're dealing with code enforcement.
I get that.
Right, so I think that they're a little bit different. I think we can always give you, as part of that report, we give the public safety, what appeals we received and what they were about.
Yeah, so that's kind of what
I don't think we.
because I'm trying to be a good legislator, right? Because I want to understand, government's got to do certain things, right? Code enforcement is probably valuable to some extent, but I also want to understand where it's like, well, maybe a lot of people in Bonnie Lake have the same appeal. It's like, well, okay, now let's take a look at what's really happening here. Should we change the code, right? And yeah, and so I just want to understand it. I feel like a lot of this stuff looks more like, paragraph E really for me is super sensitive. It's like that's the force field button, right? It's like danger, intruder. And I just want to know so I can legislate better. I thought a lot about this. I thought really what I need is the information on how I get the appeal emails. I get some emails on appeals. Land use appeals, is that what?
That's what I'm saying, they're different.
Yeah.
They're different.
Well, they're the same to me because it's somebody going, my government is infringing on my rights and I disagree. Right?
Agreed. And I think,
And
it's the.
as a legislature, I'm the only one. The people here, we're the only ones that can change that. We rely on your expertise to help us do that.
Yeah,
But we're the ones who have that responsibility. And I knocked on a lot of people's doors saying, I want that responsibility and I'll do a good job.
I think that's how the system works. And what I was saying is I think the genesis is a little different. Code enforcement is only, these are the rules that have been adopted and you're not following those rules. Some of those are, the council has greater latitude with, some of the council has less latitude with. So classic example, the council, we have fence regulations. The council has greater latitude and we had a bunch of fence appeals 2 years ago and the council we worked with the council to change the code because we all saw that there was a problem. We have shoreline regulations that we're required to adopt by the State Department of Ecology, whether that's right or wrong, whether that's, those larger political questions, we still have to enforce those regulations. And so I think that's.
Well, no, stop. You enforce regulations that we legislate.
Yeah.
Right? The legislature can say, we don't agree with that state and we're gonna push back on it, right?
Correct.
Right? Okay, good.
And that's what I say, notwithstanding the political debate between the powers between the Department of Ecology and the city council. The amount of latitude that we have as a city adopting these regulations. So that's the code enforcement side. And a lot of this, and we have different code enforcement cases involving multiple things. People violating the fire code, people trashing their properties and impacting their neighbors, right? So it's kind of a balance. Then on the other side of it, you have development. And when we approve development, people sometimes don't like the development we approved and they want us to not approve it. And it's that balance between they have a property right to develop their property, you have a property right to your property, and we have some latitude in those regulations. So, I think that part of this code that we have process that we're doing tonight is to get to the heart of that, right? These are the problems that we hear from over the year. And if you're hearing from people over the year that you're having problems with certain codes, let us know. And we begin to that's what we put into these ordinances.
Right.
I think we can report out on any appeals we do receive. Most of the appeals we received are really related to code enforcement, which we can put in our public safety report. These are the appeals we received. These are the appeals we're working on. We are providing in this ordinance and also the new code enforcement ordinance, greater latitude for the city attorney to settle cases. Right now, it's either you appeal or you don't appeal, but providing that kind of middle ground when we're like, we could really settle this one. We really don't need to go to hearing. This is an amicable situation, and taking it out kind of non-lawyers' hands and letting the lawyers make sure we're not breaking anything allows the city attorney to do settlement negotiations. A lot of the times, unfortunately, the way the code is written, I agree, this is one of those times where we didn't get it 100% right. People are appealing their civil penalties, and we don't disagree necessarily that the penalty shouldn't be reduced. But unfortunately, the only process way we have to go through it is go to the hearing examiner, have the hearing, let the hearing examiner support the appeal. So we're adding language that lets the city attorney do that negotiation.
Yeah, and Dan, all I'm saying is that in all this stuff, right, I just kind of want some sort of visibility so we know where all these things.
I will.
And because we've kind of abdicated some of that stuff, but how do we fix things if you don't know what's wrong, right? It's like, it's like.
But you want to know after?
No, well, that's the hard part, right? I don't want to know from only the people that are mad and want to say something. I really want to know, what's.
Well, that's pretty straightforward, right? And that's kind of an after.
That's still an after.
It's like, it's copy.
Yeah, whether the city council's hearing the appeals or whether the hearing examiner appeals, it's still after, right? And the council, if they're sitting in an appeal position, yes, they could change the code for the next person.
That's right.
But they could not change it for the person that has in the problem at that current time.
And that's why I said I need data to kind of understand if I need to change something for the next person.
So I think,
Because bad luck on you, right?
I think what we can do is in our code enforcement reports, we can try to identify at least the appeals that we have underway. And I will say it's hard. We try to balance those things, we understand the council's desire. We understand the code's desire. We also are property owners and understand everything. And so we're trying to balance this kind of simultaneously, but I think to help you with the data points, if adding to our code enforcement memos, here are the pending appeals and here's where we're at with those appeals. I think would give you some of the data.
Yeah, let's try something like that so we can see if that kind of helps.
And there's some bad ones in there that, have been going on for a while. And there's some more recent ones that we're just waiting for some code changes to happen so that we can get rid of we have a couple of appeals that we're holding in abeyance until this ordinance gets passed so that the city attorney can dismiss the appeal. And one thing is to kind of get to your question about government not getting in the way of the people's rights,
Right.
and we don't charge for people to file appeals. And then we're one of the few cities that don't do that. Most cities charge a property owner $300 to $500 just to file an appeal. We don't charge anything. So we want to make sure that when people are taking advantage of that kind of free option to appeal, they're at least meeting us halfway and telling us why they're appealing, why they think we're wrong, and doing it on certain deadlines.
Yeah,
That, I don't know, it gets to the heart of your concern.
but is there like a different process that you'd like to see, meaning that, you know, I don't like this thing, this needs to be changed, we want to have this other process? Or you just want more of the-
I think I need more data, right? I don't think I quite understand how it's working out, because it's like. The
Well, you
new
have the
topic
data.
came to light, so I'd like to understand it, right? And I was just looking at this going, you know, do we have a lot of people filing appeals, and is this a way to do, like you said, weed out a lot of people who are just going, I'm innocent, I tell you.
Well, it's weird that they don't email council people more.
Right,
Yes.
right.
So,
That's what struck my mind, is like, I only have like.
wouldn't that be your
going,
first stop? If you're pissed at the city.
It should be.
I guess You'd think, I
I
don't
would
know
hope so.
why they don't. It's
Yeah.
weird.
Right.
And I will say, I have no problem for the code enforcement appeals, putting those in the public side.
Mhm.
I will say, on the development side, I don't think I remember the last time we had appeal related to a permit. So I guess from a data standpoint, appeals for land use issuing permits, I don't remember the last time I had an appeal of an administrative determination in 10 years. I'm not saying there isn't one, but they're so low of a number that means we're working with people to get to a point at least where they can live with it, or they don't feel that there is an appealable issue. Not to say they're not mad about it, but they're not getting to that level of wanting to file an appeal. Most of our appeals are on the code enforcement side, and they range. One of the appeals we have right now is for a civil penalty that from somebody who had squatters and refused to clean up their property for 10 years. And we finally fined them $5,000, and it magically got cleaned up, and now they don't want to pay the fine. Right, so that's, you know, I can give you the data, and we can just list that in the code enforcement memo.
Yeah.
Brandy's one of our new code enforcement officers, so she's hearing all of this. She's helping me finish up this, but I think we're working on that quarterly report right now. I think when we give that to public safety, we can our plan is to go quarterly, is to say, here's all the appeals that we had filed, and here's the disposition. It may be ongoing, maybe in process.
Let's try something.
We can't get too
I'm
much.
just I just feel like, oh, how many things that I don't know about that, you know, because I do err on the side of less,
Yeah,
right?
and I don't know how much we can get into because they are appeals underway and we're working with the city attorney on them, so I'll
Just need to know what they are.
Yeah, I'll have to
We don't
play
need to
with-
know the reason. We
Yeah.
just need to know what they are.
Yeah.
I think, you know.
Yeah, I think we'll get, for me, I think if I see, oh, we get all these appeals, trash in the yard, you know, angry dog,
Parked in the wall.
roosters, we all wonder why there's a rooster in Bonnie Lake. I keep just having rooster,
right at Church,
been there for a long
right there
time.
at Church Lake and right there at the corner.
Yeah, somewhere there.
Yeah, I can tell you exactly why
I
it's there.
won't try, I don't ever try to pinpoint, I just chuckle.
I know exactly why it's there, and it's actually there legally. The rooster's there legally.
Nice.
That
I'm
one,
glad.
that one.
No, one rooster,
Is
okay.
totally
I'm
legal.
relying on Bonnie like to keep that rooster there. It just drives my neighbor nuts.
So,
Can you
but
get rid
I will say most of the appeals we get in code enforcement aren't usually related to the subject matter of which the notice of violation was issued. Most of them are appeal of the civil penalty that we issued. And I think there's some ways to correct that. One, we do $1,000 a day for everything.
You got 4
Yeah,
minutes.
we're gonna go to a different schedule. So let's keep working on it and I'll keep
Appreciate it.
doing my best to bring you information.
Do you have a change to the minutes?
Sorry, thank you.
Nope.
We'll skip over open discussion and all that kind of stuff. I guess right downstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Go ahead.
I just want to know